this was the first ever picture of the full Earth taken from space fully in the sun. And it is the last picture ever taken of the full Earth by a human being, unbelievably. And this makes this an astonishing picture. Its impact was huge because suddenly we could see that all of the maps that we'd looked at through our childhood that had dotted lines between countries were an absolute figment of the imagination. Now we could see that this was just nonsense. We only had this one huge blue sphere upon which to live. The first man in space, Yuri Gagarin, 1961. And he radioed back on what was probably an incredibly crackly radio. He was sitting in this tiny little capsule hurtling out into space. And he said, "The world is blue. It's amazing." 10 years ago, I'd read a wonderful book called Blue, The History of a Colour, and how fascinated I'd been by blue, because it does have a wonderful, rich history. I mean, we think about things as they come to us, that they've come out of the blue, don't we? Aristocrats have blue blood. We're comfortable in blue jeans. We like to dominate in blue suits, and there's a reason for that. It goes back to the 16th century when they started something called the sumptuary laws, because before then people had worn wonderful clothes with red feathers and golden cloaks. Are there any blue-eyed people in the room tonight? Turn and look at each other, please. Let's have a little sort of a gazing into each other's eyes for blueness. Actually, there aren't that many in the room. That's quite interesting. You might think that you're the blue-eyed boys, that you're the favoured group, because we talk about people being blue-eyed boys, don't we? We always know, and girls, and we always know that they're the ones in the office that are always looked after by the boss. You just have to be very thankful that you don't live in ancient Rome. Because if you did, if you're a woman, you were regarded as a harlot, easy lay, worst woman of the street. If you were a man, you were an oaf or a barbarian or a buffoon, because blue was regarded as an ugly, horrible colour in ancient Rome. And the only blue they saw was painted on the faces of people like Mel Gibson and Braveheart. Do you remember the movie? It was a blue woad painted on their skins. Bolts from the blue. We call them bolts from the blue because a lightning bolt can reach out 25 miles from a thunderhead. That's why they always come as this huge surprise. That they hit us over the head like a piece of 4x2, or sometimes it's a sort of a small tap on the shoulder, but when you get a bolt from the blue, you know that you've had a message from the cosmos. I had that really lovely salary pouring into my bank account every month, and there I was driving down there, and I was just suddenly struck by this feeling. The trouble is, I have a fire inside me, and I knew my little fire was kind of guttering, and I knew I had to get out of that job if I was ever going to. My flame was going to arise again. A couple of weeks ago I interviewed Dame Fiona Kidman because she's written a very good novel about Jean Batten, the amazing New Zealand aviator from the 1930s. She's another one who had one of those bolts from the blue. As a young girl, she was taken up in Sir Charles Kingsford Smith's aeroplane. And up there, she just adored the sensation of being in flight. And she said in her own book, "I knew on that day I was destined to be a wanderer." Destiny. Sometimes we learn about it very young. We park it because Mum says we should be a carpenter, or Dad says we should be an accountant, or they'd really like you to be a lawyer, or any of those many things that you can become extremely competent at. But those real dreams, the real dreams can get buried. So what about you? What's reached out and hit you over the head with a piece of 4x2? What moments have you had? And you may well have had those moments. You may well have listened to those moments, but maybe for all sorts of reasons you've had to keep going because you've got mortgages to pay and people depending on you. But at some time in your life, even when you're as old as me, the time will come when you will know your luminous and limitless best is just emerging now.